Because of their excellent climbing ability, flexibility and agility, cats are considered difficult animals to contain to your yard and therefore need special consideration. The Oscillot system has been developed to safely help to prevent your cat from scaling over your existing fence. The Oscillot system allows you to maximize your cat's need to roam by cost-effectively and aesthetically maximizing its territorial space to include your whole yard, whether it be front or rear. The Oscillot system mounted around the perimeter of your yard can only be effective at containing your cats if you have identified and corrected by other means any gaps that cats may use to escape your yard. Your cats may also be using outbuildings, trees or house roofs to exit your yard. Make sure your cats cannot dig, crawl under fences or barriers. Block off any spaces between fences and buildings where your cat may squeeze through. Remove items such as garbage bins, building materials, barbecues, etc. that may assist your cat to scale fences, walls or barriers. Remove shrubbery, bushes and tree branches near fences that your cat may use to escape. Install tree guards around trunks of trees with branches that overhang fences and buildings. These are the tools you'll need to install the Oscillot system. A variable torque drill with extendable Phillips head driver, a tape measure, a marking pen, a miter box, fine-tooth wood saw or aluminium cutting blade in an electric miter saw, a hammer and a small Phillips head screwdriver. These are the components you will be working with in the installation of your Oscillot cat containment system. In some cases, the Oscillot system alone is not enough to prevent your cat from scaling your fence. This is why we sell and recommend brackets when installing the Oscillot system on the following fence types. Post and rail fencing with a horizontal rail within 400 millimeters of the top of the fence. Vertical paling timber fencing, horizontal paling timber fencing, and brush fencing. We'll show you more about bracket installations later in this video. Okay, let's have a look at how you install the Oscillot cat containment system. Step 1. Fasten the first post in position at the starting point of the fence using the 2 fixing screws. Ensure that the post is fixed so that the screw holes are aligned parallel to the line of the fence. Step 2. Push an axle pin into one end of the first paddle and place a ball onto the axle pin. Using a small hammer, gently tap the ball on the axle pin so that the axle inserts fully into the end of the paddle. Repeat this process for the other end of the paddle. It's important to note that you should never strike the hammer directly onto the axle pin under any circumstance, as any flaring of the axle pin may result in the component binding once it's inside the ball. If this does occur, the axle pin should be carefully filed back so as to allow the pin to rotate freely inside the ball. Step 3. Once there is an axle pin fixed in position on both ends of the paddle, place a ball on each axle pin. With a ball on each axle pin, rest one end of the paddle in position in the socket on the first post. Place another post on the fence at the other end of the paddle so that the paddle end rests in position on the post. Now mark the position for the second post. You need to allow 1 millimeter of free space between the axle pins and the balls at each end of the paddle. It is very important that that 1 millimeter of give must be allowed between the axle pin and the ball to ensure the paddles will be able to spin freely. Step 4. Remove the paddle and fix the post in the marked position. Step 5. Place the paddle in position. Place another ball in the knuckle indent of the second post and place a cap on each post. Ensure the paddle spins freely. Step 6. Again, repeat step 2 to prepare the next paddle. Follow this procedure to set up the subsequent posts the correct distance apart along the fence run until you come to the end. Now here's a tip. You will probably need to cut a paddle to a smaller size when coming to the end of the fence section. The paddle should be cut with a sharp fine-tooth wood saw and a miter box to ensure a straight cut. A fine-tooth aluminium cut-off saw can also be used. Please ensure plenty of lubrication is applied to the blade during cutting. When you get to the end section of your fence and need to cut the paddle to a smaller size, measure the overall distance, then come back 10 millimeters to make the cut to allow for the axle pin. Step 8. Now start on the next section of fence following the previous steps. It is important that the paddle should overlap sufficiently at the corners so as to form an unbroken barrier. Step 9. Once locked into place on the post, the cap should be secured in place with the mini screw. This will prevent the caps becoming dislodged when excessive pressure is applied on the paddles. You will first need to drill a pilot hole into the surfaces with a 2.5mm bit to a depth of 7 to 10 millimeters. If your fence type requires brackets, now let's see how bracket installations are done. Using the supplied bracket screws, fasten the bracket to the post by screwing into the base of the post from the underside of the bracket. There are several angles at which the bracket can be installed to the fence. Try fixing the brackets at different angles to find which way is most suitable for your particular fence type. Once the post has been fastened to the bracket, fix the bracket to the fence in the same way as you would install the post in step 1, and then continue the installation as per the normal process through to step 9.